Emily Carter learned how to hide long before she learned how to rest. She woke before the alarm, as she often did, staring at the soft gray light slipping through the curtains. The house was quiet, too quiet. Her chest felt tight like she had been holding her breath all night without realizing it. She lay still, listening to Daniel's slow breathing beside her. Steady and calm, everything she was not feeling. She turned her face toward the ceiling and waited for the heaviness to pass. It didn't single quotes TD. Emily slipped out of bed without waking him. The floor was cold under her feet as she walked to the kitchen. She moved carefully, like a guest in her own home, not wanting to disturb the peace. The coffee machine hummed. The sound felt loud in the silence, but she welcomed it. Routine was safe. Routine didn't ask questions. She wrapped her hands around her favorite mug. The blue one Daniel had given her years ago. It said "Still here" in simple white letters. She used to smile when she read it. That morning the words felt heavy outside. The neighborhood was waking up. A car passed. Dog barked once and went quiet. Life moved forward whether she was ready or not. Emily leaned against the counter and tried to slow her breathing. She told herself the same thing she always did. You're fine. You're lucky. Don't make problems where there are none. She had repeated those words so often they felt like truth. Daniel came into the kitchen a few minutes later, already dressed for work. He kissed her cheek like he always did. "Morning," he said easily. "Morning," she replied, forcing her voice to sound normal. He poured coffee, talked about a meeting he had later. Mentioned traffic. Mentioned nothing important. Emily nodded at the right moments. She had perfected listening without being present, but something was wrong. She felt it rising, fast and sharp. Like a wave she could no longer stay ahead of. Daniel noticed before she did. He paused mid-sentence and looked at her more closely. "Hey," he said gently, "you're quiet today." She smiled too quickly, just tired. Daniel studied her face. He knew that smile. It was the one she used when she didn't want questions. "Are you okay?" he asked. That simple question broke something open. Emily opened her mouth to answer, ready to lie the way she always did. The word yes sat on her tongue, but her throat tightened and nothing came out. Vision blurred. The room felt smaller, like the walls were moving. Closer, her hands began to shake. She looked down, hoping Daniel wouldn't notice, but it was too late. Her breath hitched. A tear slipped down her cheek, unwanted and sudden. "No," she whispered, barely loud enough to hear herself. Daniel set his mug down slowly. "Emily." Her knees weakened. She grabbed the counter, her fingers gripping the edge so hard they hurt. More tears came faster now, like her body had been waiting for permission. "I can't." Her voice broke. She shook her head, overwhelmed. "I can't do this today." Daniel crossed the room and reached for her, but she pulled back without thinking. Panic rushed through her. She hated this part, hated being seen like this. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I don't know what's wrong with me." Daniel stopped where he was, careful not to push. His voice was soft but firm. "Nothing is wrong with you." That was when she broke. The sob that escaped her was raw and unplanned. Years of swallowed feelings rose up at once, too strong to stop. Her shoulders shook. She covered her face, ashamed. An exposed Daniel stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her, holding her steady as she leaned into him. She cried against his chest, the sound muffled but real. He held her like he was afraid she might disappear if he let go. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I had no idea it was this bad." Emily tried to catch her breath. "I didn't want you to," she said. "I didn't want to be a burden." Daniel pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes were full of concern, not disappointment. "You could never be that." She laughed weakly through her tears. "You say that now?" "I mean it," he said. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away. The truth sat heavy in her chest. "'Cause I'm supposed to be okay. Because everyone expects me to be." Daniel frowned. "Who is everyone?" She didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. They both knew. Work, family, friends, even herself. I didn't want to fall apart, she said finally. I didn't think I was allowed to. Daniel tightened his arms around her. You're allowed to be human. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. The coffee sat untouched. Time moved forward even though Emily felt stuck in that moment. She wiped her face with shaky hands. I've been holding it in for so long, she admitted. I didn't realize how tired I was. Daniel nodded slowly. I wish I had seen it. You couldn't, she said. I made sure you didn't. That truth hurt them both. They moved to the living room and sat on the couch. Emily curled in on herself, suddenly exhausted. Daniel sat close, his shoulder touching hers, grounding her. I feel like I'm failing, Emily said, staring at the floor. At work, at home, at being me. Daniel listened without interrupting. He didn't try to fix it. That alone made her chest ache. I wake up already tired, she continued. I smile all day. I help everyone else. Then I come home and I have nothing left. I don't know when that happened. Daniel reached for her hand. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. She wanted to believe him. She truly did. But fear lingered beneath the relief. Fear of what would change now that the truth was out. What if I can't put myself back together? She asked quietly. Daniel squeezed her hand. Then we take it one piece at a time. Emily leaned back and closed her eyes. She felt empty, but also lighter, like something heavy had finally been set down. After a while, Daniel stood. I'm calling in late, he said. You don't have to do that, she protested weakly. I want to, he replied. This matters more. That simple choice made her eyes sting again. They sat together in silence after that. Not awkward. Not forced, just quiet. Emily realized something then. This was the first time she had let Daniel see her like this. Truly see her. The cracks. The fear. The exhaustion. There was no hiding anymore. And as comforting as his presence felt, a new worry settled in her chest. Once someone sees you shattered, you can never unsee it. She wondered what that would mean for them. The house felt different now. The air felt different, like something had shifted, whether they were ready for it or not. Emily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder and let herself stay there, unsure of what came next, but knowing one thing for certain. Life would not go back to how it was before. The days after that morning moved quickly, but nothing felt simple anymore. Emily noticed the change first in the silence. It was no longer the empty silence she had grown used to, the kind that helped her hide. This silence was aware. It noticed things that waited. Daniel stayed home that day. They didn't talk much at first. They moved around each other carefully, like people learning a new language. Emily watched him wash the mug she had dropped into the sink without drinking from. She watched his hands steady and calm and wondered how long he had been strong. For both of them, without realizing it, by the second day, the weight returned in a different way. Not as pressure, but as truth. Emily went back to work. She answered emails, sat in meetings, nodded at jokes she didn't hear fully, but something inside her had shifted. The mask felt heavier now that it had slipped once. Every smile took more effort, every pause felt longer. Daniel checked in without hovering. A message at lunch, a short call before heading home. No questions that felt like demands. Presence. That evening, they sat across from each other at dinner. The food was warm. The room was quiet. I keep thinking about that morning, Daniel said. Emily nodded. Me too. I keep wondering what else I missed, he added. She took a breath. A lot, she admitted. But not because you weren't looking. It's because I didn't want to be found. Daniel leaned back, listening. Why? Emily stared at her plate. Because once I said it out loud, it became real. And real things change lives. Daniel didn't argue. He knew that was true. Over the next few days, Emily slept more than she had in months. Not always well, but deeper. Dreams came back. Some were heavy, some confusing, but all of them reminded her she was still feeling, still alive. Daniel noticed her watching him more, not suspiciously, but carefully, as if she was trying to understand how much he had seen and what he might see next. One night, he asked her a question she hadn't expected. "Do you trust me?" He asked softly. She didn't answer right away. "Yes." She said finally, "I just don't trust what happens when I do." Daniel took that in. "Trust doesn't mean nothing changes," he said. "It means you don't face the change alone." Emily nodded, but fear still sat in her chest as the week passed. Small moments carried more meaning. A shared look across the room, a hand held longer than usual. A laugh that felt earned, but with closeness came tension. Emily began to notice how careful Daniel was. He chose his words slowly. He watched her reactions. Sometimes she wondered if he was afraid of breaking her. One afternoon, she stopped him. "You don't have to treat me like glass," she said. He met her eyes. "I'm not." "Then what is this?" she asked. He hesitated. "I'm trying to understand you again." That answer hurt more than she expected. "I didn't change," she said quickly. Daniel shook his head. "You didn't, but I see you differently now. Not weaker, just fuller." Emily turned away. That word stayed with her. Fuller. It sounded kind, but it also sounded like something had been added. Something she hadn't agreed to share. Later that night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Daniel slept beside her, his back turned toward her, not out of distance, but habit. She wondered if he was dreaming, or if he was awake too, thinking the same thoughts. She realized then that love wasn't just comfort. It was exposure. It was risk. The next morning, Emily made a choice. She asked Daniel to take a walk with her after dinner. They walked through their neighborhood. As the sun lowered behind the houses, the air was cool. Leaves moved across the sidewalk. "I don't want us to drift," Emily said as they walked. "I feel it happening." Daniel slowed his steps. "I feel it too. It scares me," she admitted. "Not because I don't love you. Because I do." Daniel stopped and turned to her. "Can tell me what you need?" She looked at him, really looked at him, and decided not to soften the truth. "I need you to let me be unsure," she said. "I need space to figure myself out, without feeling like I'm disappointing you." Daniel nodded slowly. "And I need honesty, even when it's messy." Emily smiled faintly. "That part scares me the most." They continued walking. That night they talked longer than they had in years. Not about schedules or plans, but about who they were becoming. Emily spoke about feeling lost inside a life she had built carefully. Daniel spoke about realizing he had been present but not always attentive. Neither blamed the other. That alone felt like progress. Days turned into weeks. Emily started therapy. It wasn't easy. Some sessions left her drained. Others left her hopeful. She didn't share everything with Daniel, but she shared enough. Daniel learned how to listen without fixing. Sometimes that meant sitting in silence. Sometimes it meant holding her hand. Sometimes it meant stepping back. There were moments of doubt. One evening, after a hard day, Emily snapped at him without meaning to. The look on his face made her chest ache. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I didn't mean that." Daniel nodded. "I know. Just didn't expect it." That was the truth of it. Neither of them knew what to expect anymore. Later, Emily cried alone in the bathroom, frustrated by how fragile she still felt. Daniel waited outside, not knocking, just present. When she came out, he didn't ask what was wrong. He just opened his arms. Slowly, trust rebuilt itself in new shapes. Emily learned that being seen didn't mean being judged. Daniel learned that strength didn't always look calm. One night, they sat on the couch watching a movie neither of them was really paying attention to. Emily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. "This feels different," she said quietly. "Different. Good or different bad?" he asked. "Different honest," she replied. He smiled at that. Still Questions lingered. Emily sometimes wondered if Daniel missed the version of her who never broke. Daniel sometimes wondered if he had unknowingly relied on that version too much. They didn't say those thoughts out loud, but they felt them. One evening, Emily stood at the window, watching rain fall softly. Daniel came up behind her. "I'm still afraid," she admitted. He rested his chin lightly on her shoulder. "Me too." That shared fear brought them closer than certainty ever had. Emily realized then that shattering hadn't ended her marriage. It had exposed it. The weak spots, the strong ones, the places that needed care. She turned toward Daniel. "I don't know who I'll be when I'm done figuring this out." He met her gaze. "I don't need you to be finished. I just need you to stay." Emily felt tears rise again, but these were different, not desperate, not hidden. She nodded. "I can do that." As the rain continued outside, Emily understood something important. Healing wasn't a straight line. Love wasn't a guarantee. But honesty had opened a door they could no longer close. And while the future remained uncertain, one truth stood clear. What broke them open had also given them a chance to rebuild, not as they were, but as who they truly were becoming. And this time, there would be no hiding.